Hi, and welcome to THORsday Comics. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics, and Fantastic Four Grand Design. And every episode we look at an issue of Marvel's Thor, starting from the beginning. We're up to the third issue now, Journey into Mystery number 85. And this is a good one. This is the first appearance of Loki. So really, a star is born. He's become very popular, maybe even as popular or more so than Thor himself. And this is where he first shows up. Obviously, I don't own a copy of Journey into Mystery number 85, but I have the next best thing, which is this coverless copy of Journey into Mystery annual number 1, the Thor annual number 1, with the first appearance of Hercules. Really great story, and we'll get to that main story eventually. In here is a reprint of Journey into Mystery number 85. It's very handsomely reprinted here. So let's get to it. Thor the Mighty, trapped by Loki, the god of mischief. And man, what a start. The costume looks great. It gets slightly refined as the years go on, but that's pretty much it. It's got a couple of flourishes and details that get lost as the series goes on, like these spikes on Loki's helmet, but pretty much all there. And what a great intro. I mean, these early Marvel superhero comics have a down and dirty quality. This is a triumphant return to that aesthetic. I really like the setup of this first panel splash, where they're kind of squaring off against each other, straddling a billboard. It's just, really fun idea. There's some danger and suspense, like a high wire act, and a little bit of pop. Employing advertising, a billboard in the setup. So anyway, let's get to it. So beyond our segment of time and space, there exists Asgard, the citadel of the Norse gods, which is connected to Earth by a rainbow bridge called Bifrost, whatever you want to call it. We have the first appearance of Loki, and we have the first appearance of Asgard, the sort of Marvel Comics Asgard, the Jack Kirby Asgard. So the mythology of the comic is unfolding. Obviously, there's, these things are loosely based on the Eddas, on sort of Norse mythology, but they're sort of unique creations in their own right. It's going through Jack Kirby's filter and Stan Lee's filter and Larry Lieber's filter and creating something new out of these classic stories. And the depiction of Asgard is very reminiscent of the floating cities in the early issues of Alex Raymond's Flash Gordon. Kirby is a self-professed student of Alex Raymond. He loved his work, and that was sort of the breakout work was that first year of Flash Gordon. So it's not surprising that again and again we see Raymondisms popping up in Jack Kirby's work. So it starts with the setup of Loki is being punished, which is the starting point of a lot of Loki stories as the series goes on. They usually start with Loki in some kind of limbo or prison or something, and he sort of schemes a way to get out and cause more trouble in the world. So here he's imprisoned in a tree. Another motif that we see again and again in Marvel Comics, of somebody being trapped inside of a tree. Sometimes even the face starts sort of growing out of the tree. He's been exerting his will on this tree for all these years, and so now he's going to try to put that to the ultimate test, see if he can get out. So another first appearance, Heimdall shows up. He looks kind of different from how he'll be depicted in later issues. These are almost more like his casual clothes. These aren't the clothes that he would be wearing when he's standing guard on the Rainbow Bridge. And of course, you do wonder. I guess maybe he gets a day off from time to time, and that's why he's not standing guard. So hopefully, there's somebody else standing in for him while he's here. As he passes by, Loki uses his connection to this tree to get a leaf to fall and hit Heimdall in the eye. And the reason for that is that the spell that put Loki into this tree made a condition of his release is if he can get somebody to shed a tear for him, he'll be set free. So this is the way he does it. It's not a genuine tear of sympathy. It's the tear of, oh, there's something in my eye. And so Heimdall does shed a tear, and Loki is now free to cause all kinds of trouble. And what a great design. Nice close up. Definitely a sort of devil figure, a Satan figure. As the series goes on, Kirby has said that he based his depiction of Loki on Stan Lee, and that he based some of the character traits on Stan Lee, and you kind of see the likeness, and definitely as it goes on, the likeness develops even further into a Stan Lee. Conversely, he said he based the Thor and Loki dynamic on the family dynamic of Larry Lieber as Thor and Stan Lee as Loki, and Martin Goodman, their sort of cousin by marriage, who they both worked for, Martin Goodman as Odin. So that's a very interesting quote. I wish Kirby would have elaborated on that. I'm very curious. But anyway, here we have it. Kirby, throughout his career, has done a number of characters sort of based physically on Stan, or sometimes based, the characters based on Stan. So there's a number of them. Most famous being Funky Flashman. Loki is sort of getting himself caught up with current events, what's happened since he's been in his tree prison, and he's spying on Thor, seeing what Thor is up to. I shall find Thor through his hammer, and he taps into the Uru metal. And I think this is the first appearance of the word Uru to describe the material that Thor's hammer is made out of. As best as I can tell, Larry Lieber claims credit for creating that word Uru, and Stan Lee corroborates it. I haven't seen any quote from Kirby talking about the origin of the term Uru, so as best as I can tell, it's attributed to Larry Lieber. Stan Lee said he didn't know what it was. He assumed it was from mythology, and later found out that Larry just kind of made it up. It's a great word. I too, as a reader of Thor, thought that it was a established part of Norse mythology. I bought into it as being genuine, but it's created for the Marvel thing, so it's kind of cool. I actually used Uru in at least one of my early self-published comics. I had some kind of weapon or whatever that was made out of Uru, because I thought it was up for grabs. I didn't realize it was a specific to Marvel thing. So here's Thor doing sort of, typical superhero stuff that they do when there's no danger going on. He's performing for a children's hospital and doing different tricks, to entertain the kids. Really, really, excellent use of his time, and sort of showing us, what a great guy he is. Loki, hops onto the Rainbow Bridge and comes down to Earth, and immediately gets himself duded up in the street clothes of the time. Gets himself a nice suit, which again, you'll see this setup again and again. You'll see it with Odin, where Odin comes to Earth and he gets himself a nice little suit. Loki again and again comes to Earth, gets a nice little suit, so you can sort of blend in. Very, very smart. And you can see it as necessary. And he's sort of looking around. He's like, wow, the fashions sure have changed on planet Earth since the last time I was here. He creates a way to get Thor's attention. So Loki sort of magically turns people into sort of photo negatives, and you can see that they use like a photo negative process, to create the artwork there, drawings, and then did a reversal of them. Nurse Jane sees it happen, and she wants to help, and she wants Dr. Don Blake to help as well, but she turns around and he's running away, like Clark Kent, appearing to be sort of, cowardly and running away from trouble, but he's actually running away so he can smack his walking stick on the ground and turn into Thor, in the alleyway in some privacy. And Thor comes back and does one of his sort of, pseudo-scientific superhero science solutions to the problem. He twirls his hammer fast enough that it sort of, draws the reversed ions towards it, and the sort of antimatter particles, I guess, it says they're made out of antimatter particles, and he sort of draws the antimatter particles to his hammer and replaces them with matter, and now they're back to normal, problem solved. But again, it was all set up to bring Thor out of hiding, and now Loki's ready to face off with him in this great silhouette here. Again, really great iconography, and it's because we're kind of early in Kirby's Marvel journey, it hasn't solidified into the sort of set iconography that we've seen. So these are kind of they're identifiably Kirby drawings, and it's Kirbyisms, but they don't quite have that, okay, that can only be Kirby look that the series takes on as it goes on. It's kind of cool seeing somebody outside of what the sort of tricks you'd associate him with. We still have these like sort of lean figures. They're not the bulky figures that they become as the series matures and as Kirby matures. And so Loki, creates a flying carpet out of a carpet that happens to be in front of the Hotel Royale, and he challenges Thor to a battle. And now Thor has another way of flying. We saw in previous issues the form of locomotion where he spins his hammer and then throws it and is carried by the momentum. Here he turns it into a helicopter basically, and he's flying from the lift provided by swinging the hammer in circles. But this is part of Loki's plan too. He knows that Thor, because of where the sun is and where Thor is, that it's going to reflect, the spinning is going to reflect the sun in his eyes in sort of a strobing pattern, something that's kind of hard to draw, and Kirby communicates that really well in the visuals, of course backed up by the verbiage written presumably by Larry Lieber, maybe written or rewritten by Stan, or maybe following directions that Kirby might have written in the margins. But anyway, the dialogue definitely reinforces that in case that sort of complicated idea was lost on you. And so the flashing strobing lights Loki uses as a way to hypnotize Thor, because Loki is a magician. He's a mesmerist, and part of the bag of tricks of a magician is, well, you can create a flying carpet for yourself, and you can hypnotize people. You can control the minds of men. Now he's got Thor under his control. He asks him initially to hand him the hammer, and Thor says, "I can't do it. Nobody can have this hammer but Thor." And so then Loki tells him, "Okay, throw it away." But it comes back to Thor when he throws it away. So Loki creates an optical illusion of a second Thor, and this kind of will fool Thor's hypnotized dreamlike psyche, because it's like, yeah, the hammer belongs to Thor. There's Thor. Let me give it to him. So he gives it to the illusionary Thor, and it falls to the ground. And we see, kids struggling to pick it up. Again, setting up that well-known trope, that well-known idea that we have about Thor's hammer, that nobody else can lift it up, or only the worthy can lift it up. And being apart from his hammer, another rule that we're teaching the readership, if he's away from his hammer for too long, 60 seconds here, sometimes it's referred to as 90 seconds, he reverts back to Don Blake. And of course all these sort of tough guys, these stocky, manly men have been trying to lift it up and can't do it, and then here comes little old Don Blake. Are you kidding? He couldn't lift it. So how can a skinny guy like you do it? And of course, he's got the magic. So he does it and he turns into Thor. And now Loki is sort of up in the sky among the birds. He's got this little cluster of birds around him, kind of cool. You know, not an obvious thing, not something that would come to mind. An extra detail that makes everything kind of visually interesting, kind of fun, and it's definitely harder to draw than just sort of Loki flying through the air. So kudos to Kirby for including that detail. Be gone, pigeons. And here we have, must be an advertising stunt. So again, that's something, you know, like a hallmark of the Marvel Comics, of sort of the man on the street view, and what must they make of all these goings on. And the idea of it being an advertising stunt, we'll see again and again. Too many people around, there's no room to swing my hammer. Another theme that we're going to see again and again, where Thor can't use his power because he's so crowded on these Manhattan streets that he can't, you know, swing his hammer and do his stuff. He needs a little space to do it. So it kind of, you know, gives us a little break in the action that follows a logic. And Loki's pulling out every trick he can. He's on the stage, you know, the perfect place for a magician. He makes the curtain fall down on Thor. Thor uses the wind to blow it off, uses again, like sort of a Superman kind of trick, but you know, Thor is sort of master of the storm, so of course he would have some sort of, you know, wind related power. And then Loki makes a run for the underground, into the subway, to see if he can fight Thor there, and he causes trouble, pushes some people into the tracks of an oncoming subway car, and Thor does kind of a Superman kind of thing, although this is something I've seen in Superman movies, but I don't know that this was an element of Superman comics at this time. It seems like a very specific, very action-driven thing that I would say is a Kirby innovation, not something that you would see in sort of a Wayne Boring or a Kurt Swan or even a Siegel and Schuster Superman. But if anybody can think of a prior instance of this, a sort of non-Kirby instance of this, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. So he lifts it up. This actually almost reminds me of Dark Knight Returns, when there's you know, somebody in the way of a subway car, and then Superman stops the train. And maybe I can talk about this on another video, but the Miller Dark Knight, the more I think about it, seems like he brought a Marvel sensibility to Batman, to DC. And so there's a bunch of elements like Batman being a man out of time is kind of like the 60s Marvel Captain America's. The idea of Superman being a god on Earth seems to come from Thor. The idea of Commissioner Gordon knowing that Bruce Wayne is Batman, but never saying it outright, and you're kind of guessing, does he know, does he not know, seems like it's based on Captain Stacy and Peter Parker, where Captain Stacy, you know, Peter Parker kind of suspects that Captain Stacy knows who he is, but he doesn't know for sure, and he doesn't find out until Captain Stacy's sort of deathbed confession that he knew he was Spider-Man. So anyway, lots of great action in here. You know, every hero needs its villain. If you want to have a great hero, you need a great villain, and we're really setting Loki up to be just that, and he does fill he fills those boots nicely. This is really an epic. And then again, more of the sort of pop art thing. Loki turns a winged horse on a gasoline station sign. He brings it to life, and he takes a ride on it. I guess I'm trying to think. I kind of remember a gas station that had like a Pegasus as its symbol for that. But yeah, clever idea. We got the Statue of Liberty. Always fun to see a Statue of Liberty in a superhero comic. Kind of surprised Loki didn't turn the Statue of Liberty into a rampaging monster like, you know, like Ghostbusters 2 or something, but, you know, maybe next time. And Thor finds a solution at a nearby construction site, takes a piece of tubing, throws it at Loki. He gets trapped and it falls underwater. Another recurring motif in Kirby's comics. You see, just offhand, you see that in an issue of the Eternals where you know, the deviants put Icarus of the Eternals into a tube, seal it up, and then send him to the bottom of the ocean where he'll, you know, presumably stay forever until he gets rescued. And of course, Thor rescues Loki because he is cut from that cloth of the classic superhero, where he would never let anybody die, even his worst enemy, which I think is a good element of a superhero, and is not, as the years go on, that kind of gets dropped from some heroes. And he takes Loki up to the Empire State Building. Hey, it's New York, it's pop culture. Kirby's a huge fan of King Kong, so here we go. He's on top of the Empire State Building. Instead of swinging his hammer around, he swings Loki around. Kind of making me think of the Avengers movie when the Hulk starts swinging Loki around, banging him on the floor repeatedly. I wonder if maybe they got that idea from here. He has his hammer tied to Loki, so he's swinging Loki around, and his hammer at the same time throws the both of them. The hammer dutifully delivers Loki to Asgard and then flies right back. Here we have Odin. I don't know if he's named Odin. I don't know if he's called out specifically as Odin in here. It doesn't look... Oh, yeah, here we go. Where it sweeps down in a great arc before Odin, Balder, Tyr, and the other astonished gods. So these are sort of calling them out as like, here he is among the gods, among the elders, and because, we've read other Thor comics, we can sort of pick out this guy with the winged helmet and the white beard is Odin, but he's not specifically, tagged that way, but very cool. The hammer returns just in time, comes back before he can turn back into Don Blake. The hammer returns just in time. Another few seconds and it would have been gone a full minute, causing me to lose my powers. Then Don Blake would have been standing here trying to catch it, a feat he could never perform. So nice little, telling you the stakes and letting you know that there's some drama and some danger and rules to these powers, which will be further explored in coming issues. And then we have sort of the wrap-up panel, kind of like another sort of Clark Kent kind of thing. If only she knew. Imagine the god of thunder and the god of mischief both battling here on Earth before our eyes. How romantic. It makes our own ordinary lives seem so dull, doesn't it, Dr. Blake? Well, it's all in your point of view. The end. So, we got that sort of little, wink to the reader, not a literal wink like you'd have in a Superman story, but that sort of, reset. We're back in the world of the everyday and keeping a little bit of that romantic tension that she's sort of, sort of wistful and carried away with Thor and the romance of this sort of other world that he seems to live in, and Don Blake kind of symbolizing the everyday and the humdrum and mortal frailty, and just like a nice way to end the issue. So here we go. It's another classic. It's one of the great early issues, and things are only going to get better from here. So thanks for joining me. This has been THORsday Comics, Episode 3. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics. And I'll see you next THORsday.